artists and writers, I've heard them say that they're just vessels for creativity. And I always thought, that's a load of crap. Because anybody who's written a book has put their heart and soul into it. I've spent 2 years with this book, and I bled over it, and I don't think I sweat much, but I made up for it in tears, I'm sure. And I just couldn't imagine that it's not all me in here. It's like every character has part of my voice and situations. And then friends remind me that they have to do that a lot. They say, Mark, it's not all about you. I go, I just don't get that. But in this case, they might be right. My friend Alana, who's been with me from the start, since I started writing, asked me before, when I was starting to get ready to say stuff, she said, so would you like some statistics on pediatric cancer and neuroblastoma? Because the little girl who asked me to write this story, that's what she had. And I went, oh yeah, it's really not about me at all, is it? I met Brooke Hester, this little 8-year-old girl, a few years ago when I was starting my second book, which is the Royal Fables. It's stories from the princes and princesses of the Texas Children's Hospital. And I went to the hospital with Alana, and we talked to kids in the cancer centers and asked them to come up with titles for a prince or a princess story. And I picked 5 of them, and Brooks was one of those. And I wrote stories based on their titles. So it's titles like The Prince Who Never Cut His Hair, and The Princess Who Was Too Demanding. And then I gave the stories back to the kids in the hospital and their families, and they did the drawings for it, and all the money goes to pediatric cancer research at Texas Children's Hospital. And so I saw Brooke a little over 2 years ago when she was in New York, at New York Presbyterian, for some special treatment. And while I was there, they brought in crash carts, and her fever spiked, and finally all that calmed down, and she sat up in bed and go, hi, like nothing had happened. And I said, Brooke, I stopped by, I thought maybe I would read you some of my new stories. And she said, really? I thought you came so that I could give you another idea for a book. Okay. And she asked me to write The Princess and the Parakeet. And she wanted the parakeet to be snow white with golden feathers on its head. And I said, okay, I'll write that. And a few weeks later, she passed away. So I fashioned the princess in the story on her, and I made her Princess Brooke, and I took the names from her family and made them the other characters in the book. And Alana, one of the articles Alana sent me, I'm going to need to read that, was a quote from a doctor. Oh, I think my glasses are there, but can't see anything without them. Thanks. John's been helping me out all night.
Chair.
I'm here for you.
I know.
It's all about me.
So he said, here's what the doctor said at the hospital she spent a lot of time at, and where she spent her final days. He's the head of hematology and oncology at the hospital. He said Brooke was this extraordinary, larger-than-life dynamo of bright colors and positive energy that directed everyone's hearts into the search for cures for children's cancer. And here's the rest of it. It was Brooke who reminded us all that even on the hardest days, her world was filled with hope, happiness, and healing. And so that's what this man said when she passed away. Here's what I wrote about her. Princess Brooke would dress in the brightest colors on her darkest days and stroll through the castle corridors singing. Ask her a favor, she'd deliver it tenfold. Pay her a compliment, she'd stick it in her pocket. Take her hand, she would offer her heart. I can say for certain that your life would have been better for knowing her. There's beauty in the world if you look for it. There's faith, hope, and love. She possessed them all, doling them out freely to anyone who crossed her path with a charm that wouldn't fail. The word grace is seldom used anymore, maybe it's because she was the last person to embody it so completely. So you can see, somebody said most of the stuff that I wrote before I even said it, so it was already in the ether, and I'm basically a vessel of creativity, and I just had to transcribe what everybody else knew for certain. I'm an incredibly lucky person, and this is further proof of it. And this book, for me, most people think of magic as being spells, and I think of it as this. This book is magic, and it's changed my life and continues to do so. And I just want to thank you all and JM Northern Media for this award. Thank you so much.